Good afternoon, this is Jeff at Sewer Tech Northwest. We are at 19386 Prospector Terrace here in Oregon City. We're located at the front of the home, just to the right of the front doorway. I describe everything as if you are standing in the road facing the front of the house. So in the concrete here, we have a 4-inch PVC cleanout. The whole thing pulls out of it. It's got so gunked in there, the whole flange pulls out. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water's running. We are zeroed out, and off we go. Oh, looks like we just swapped over to ABS plastic there. Right as the line about popped out from underneath the porch here, the line transitioned to 4-inch ABS black plastic. That kind of tannish brown stuff you see in the flow line, right now the water line's kind of at the top of the screen. That is some grease buildup there. And now we're going back into PVC now. Anyway, there's not an outrageous amount of it in here, but it's something to be mindful of. And we'll get a better view of things when the line drains out at the end. But it's I like to point it out anytime I see it so people can see what it looks like when you pour your bacon grease down the sink. And right up ahead here is the main lateral connection. Very straightforward, simple sewer line there. Alright, I'm going to do some toilet flushes to help break loose any grease buildup. I just broke loose with the camera there. And then we'll give that a better look over once I back the camera out and the line's drained. Once I see a relatively continuous layer of grease buildup throughout the line, that's when I usually start recommending cleaning on it. I don't know if we're going to have that here, but I mostly, part of the reason I talk about it is just so people can see what grease buildup looks like. It creates for sticky conditions. It's more likely buildup will occur. It makes it more likely that when blockages do happen, the blockage happens more effectively. It's less likely to break loose on its own. Anyhow, we're going to go locate the camera head really quick here while the pipe drains. Alrighty, just located the camera head successfully. Line terminates out on Prospector Terrace. The line meanders a little bit. Overall, it runs pretty darn straight. If you draw an imaginary line from the clean out to the street, that's essentially the path the line takes, in case you're curious. And the pipe here is just about done draining off. There's no more water at this point going through the clean out. And a lot of times when my camera goes through these things, it'll scrape some of this stuff loose. Anyway, a good way to, kind of the rule of thumb I tell most people to mitigate most grease buildup. If you've got enough grease or oil on your pans, that if you turn them sideways when they're hot or warm anyway, if the grease or oil runs off the pan, or flows off the pan basically, if there's enough on there to do that, and it's not just a little teeny tiny bit or sticks to the pan, at that point you want to let your pans cool down, wipe them out with a paper towel, pour it into a jar when it's still hot. You can also scrape it into your garbage can. You just want to make sure if you're not pouring it into a jar, do it when it cools down. Anyway, so far here coming back, we've got a layer of it throughout the flow line, and as you can see all these little chunks of toilet paper. My camera's going directly over top of right now. That's kind of the issue. Is your paper products can get stuck to it and starts to build up. Like what you have in here right now is not a nightmarish level of it, but there's enough in here. If it looks this way coming all the way back in, I'm going to recommend cleaning on it. Pipe itself here so far, though, is looking good. Great flow. We're sloping great anyway. And you've got a pretty consistent amount of grease coming all the way back to the house here. First part of it, you've got a little pathway through it. We'll see what the interior looks like, and the interior is the part that any issue, whether it's a structural problem or grease buildup or whatnot, is always more likely to lead to an issue the closer into the home it is. And a lot of that is related to head pressure. The blockage does happen. You know, for instance, if it happens 40 feet away from the home, you need a pretty sizable blockage for that to actually back all the way up to the house. Stuff like that happens on the inside of the home. You have less leeway, less chance to build head pressure for things to break loose naturally. And you've got some reasonable chunks of it coming back in here too. Pretty similar inside and out. You can see that big hunk of junk right there though. That's what we want to try to avoid, is stuff like that building up. So I am going to recommend cleaning on the sewer line. As the line currently sits, it is still a functioning sewer line. The grease buildup in here makes the line more prone to buildup and blockages. So I am going to recommend cleaning. If you end up cleaning the line, I do recommend re-scoping afterwards to show the work. And then if you keep those habits in place I was talking about earlier, you can mitigate the buildup of grease entirely if you go far enough out of your way. You know, you don't necessarily need to be losing your mind over a thin little coating of PAM spray on a pan. Hot water and soap handles that quite nicely. The key to helping make sure it doesn't build up too badly in the line, if some amount gets down there, always use hot water, as hot as you can get it, to do your dishes, and use soap obviously, but let your hot water run for about a solid minute after your last dish. That helps to keep everything melted and emulsified until it gets all the way to the main. Once that pipe hits the outside, it's buried underground and cold all the time, where the crawl space area, that pipe's fairly well insulated. And anyway, the temperature starts to drop pretty rapidly once the pipe hits the outside, so a lot of times you'll see grease buildup thickening up quite a lot more on the exterior than the interior. It just depends on how people wash their dishes. So that's a little trick you can do to help keep things clean. But I do recommend cleaning on it. Aside from that, though, the line itself, minus the grease buildup, is in good condition. As it sits right now, I would say it has adequate flow. It will have proper flow and functionality, and you'll have mitigated the blockage risk of the grease after cleaning is done.